Welcome to BTFD TV. My name is Jack Barnes, and this is the first macro tourist hour we've had in a while, and we have the boys back. The one, the only, the man, the myth. My wingman is staring off, probably wondering about a sports bet at this moment. Um, we have our guests with us, although it's kind of hard to call them guests when they're at this point family and regulars. So why don't we start with Uncle Bob and we'll go to the political arena, and I'm going to sit back and smile.
All right. Well, U.S. politics is an interesting place. That is, if you're a bottom dweller, you now have presumptive nominees on the Republican side of Mr. Trump and on the Democratic side of Ms. Clinton. And their unfavorables are both over 50%. They are absolute disasters in my eyes. But, of course, anybody that follows me knows that I complain that two political parties are two political gangs, two criminal gangs, actually. And, I just don't have much hope. It has already degenerated into a bit of a food fight. I expect nothing less for the next 6 months. It's unbelievable.
So, worst case scenario happened.
Well, I don't know what the worst case scenario. I guess the worst case scenario is that that the Libertarian candidate, who appears to be, at least at this point, Gary Johnson, who was the former governor of New Mexico, garners some 15%, gets a couple of states, and throws this back to the House. And in doing so, it would go to a Republican House that would probably then designate Mr. Rump, as I refer to him, as the next president of the United States. Which, I think I've actually had the displeasure of meeting Mr. Rump, and he's all that. He's a horse's ass. He's just a horse's ass. Doesn't know what he's talking about. Doesn't know what he's doing. So I'm absolutely disgusted. For a long time, I was having a lot of fun with it, but I'm no longer having fun.
All right, so I got to do mea culpa. You were right. I was wrong. You were right. I was wrong. On our public on Twitter arguments and conversations about who would be running and who would still be in the running, I was phenomenally wrong, and you were right. And so I have to. Well, hello there. Yes, you're on television now. This is the new member of the family, Mr. Puck. Thanks, Al. So you were right, Uncle Bob, and I was wrong. And I just got to give credit where credit is due. And yeah, I was my one choice. He went out within weeks after I made the comment. I mean, spectacularly flamed out.
Yeah.
So let's go to Bree X. Let's do a little European now. I obviously love the underdogs, so I'm voting for the Brits to find their independence from themselves. The EU. The union stands strong, or something like that. I believe that your money is on the money, which is the betting pool, and they're betting that they stay. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. I read a piece that you sent me. I've been following it fairly closely. Not the polling numbers as much, but what intrigues me more than the polling numbers are what the betting lines are. And the betting lines are currently showing about a 20% chance of the Brits voting for a Brexit. So when in doubt, I go with the gambling line.
All right. Uncle Dave, while you scratch your shoulder, let's move over to or Candace, as I'll call you. Candace.
Candace, is that right?
Yeah, it says Candace on the screen.
My goddamn computer, and then it ends up being going through a gender thing.
So your new out of the closet name
Yeah. I should have picked one that was gender neutral.
There you go. Um, so, what are your thoughts on gold now that we've had a significant movement? And it's, um, obviously the equities since January have had monster moves. I could pull up some charts, and I might using my AUM project that I've been working on for the last 6 months. But in quick, simple terms, some of the stocks have gone from $1.50 to $4.50, $5 a share. So the amazing beatdown ended, it appears, around December, and what was known to be dead and trash is all of a sudden the best performing or some of the best performing equities in the market. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was on record in December, and then again about a month ago. I don't know squat about gold. I just been buying it since '99, off and on. I bought it from '99 to '04. I gave it up for a while. I owned it, but I didn't buy any more. And then at the beginning of 2015, I started buying again when I sensed that they had flushed out every last weak hand that possibly existed. I've never been a big fan of the equities. They've convinced me last year or through the years that they don't know how to make money. That these guys can't run a company. That these guys can't make money the way you're supposed to. So I still have gold equities I bought way back in the early part of the millennium. Had shrunk way down at the end of last year. I wrote that that the shrunken portfolio, that I would not be expanding it, and that I would be passing on the opportunity of a lifetime, according to some of the others, and then I presciently said that that I probably just called the bottom, and that turned out to be exactly right. So what are they up 90% or something? It's a big mother run, and
Yeah.
I do own some, so I benefited from them, but I wasn't buying hand over fist like Jim Grant or someone like that. I have been buying very large quantities of physical gold, and that gets to one of our topics tonight on negative interest rates, and we could hit bail-ins, we could hit all the things that give me the heebie-jeebies, but I'm buying physical gold as a bet against the banking system.
Okay. I think that's a feed into the one, the only Sapien. There, I used the correct name and not the band name. Brother, you're on mute. After you unmute, let's talk a little bit about negative interest rates and your thoughts about implications of carry trades.
So after something I haven't looked at all over the last couple of months because I've been working on other things, and I know that's gonna probably I'm gonna get smacked around for that. But yeah, I mean, right now, if you can go both the 10-year yield and if you can go on the here's the problem, and I guess this is where I'm kind of stuck. Is theoretically there's this marvelous two-point trade if you take a look at the 10-year Japanese, which is at a minus 10 basis points yield, where you borrow against that and then buy 10-year treasuries, which currently I think are at about let me just double check that number, at 1.864. So that's roughly that's almost a 200 basis point differential. Theoretically, for 10 years you're getting 200 basis points are risk-free, the positive carry on that, but you got to hold that position for 10 years, and as rates go up, the value of this thing drops, right? So the value of your bonds drop, and at some point these rates, which cannot stay there for 10 years, and I don't even think they can stay there for more than a year or two, but then again, I've been wrong about this before. So you got to be careful with this, because you could be holding on to something that's going to devalue very quickly. So even though you're getting the yield, a lot of the hedge funds can't hold this for 10 years.
Right. When I brought it towards you in the green room, my idea behind it was that using this as a foundation, we'll call it,
right,
to put on commodity trades using the U.S. Treasury leg of it as your margin buying power, right?
Yeah, I guess you could do that at the 1 year, if because I wouldn't go out 10 years. I mean, right now, the 1 year differential is, I'm doing this math in my head, which is always dangerous. is roughly 89, almost 90 basis points. So if you can do that in enough size at 90 basis points, you know, borrow the yen, buy the dollar, you know, lend to the U.S., buy the dollar, and on that 90 basis point differential, then you could use that to fund other things. The only thing that I have a problem with, of course, is that you would figure that would be a trade people would be doing all day long, and treasuries, treasury yields would tighten like crazy, and they just haven't done that. We've seen currency weakening, but theoretically.
All right, so I want to make a comment here. Saudi Arabia is so broke that, for all intents and purposes, it's my understanding, and I'm saying that as a complete outside novice, just reading the headlines, okay? As a tourist, that Saudi Arabia is barfing up all of their reserves. And so literally, as the reserves are being blown out of places like Saudi Arabia, as they liquidate their positions, they're being picked up and put on for this kind of trade. So it's a scenario where literally there happens to be a seller that has to sell and interested buyers, and so the two are crossing the market.
Yeah, but
I mean, Saudi Arabia is issuing IOUs right now. They literally their building boom, that huge the King of Abdullah Financial Center, it stopped. The Bin Laden Group, what a name, the Bin Laden Group that was building it. In essence, no one's been paid for months, and I'm not going to go into details because I don't have those details. I would be making shit up besides normal. Yeah. And so from that perspective, though, what I've read in the Bloomberg type articles is that people are not getting paid, and it's 3 months, it's 6 months without being paid, and that construction has stopped. The cranes have quit moving. Right. And that they're now looking at issuing IOUs, and they're reaching out to their banks to see if their banks will provide some form of funding structure on those IOUs. So it's kind of like the state of California, when it ran out of funds, it issued IOUs.
I'm not seeing that, because if that were really true, you would see the Saudi Arabia spreads just widen the hell out. And right now it's at 156 for a 5-year, 10-year, and it's really not widening out that much. Let me see if I can show you this really quickly.
Sure.
Let me see if I can do this correctly. There we go. So if you take a look at this, right now this is the Saudi Arabia 5-year CDS spread, and January tough. But as oil prices have come up, obviously there's an inverse there's an inverse correlation, and what you're seeing here is it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of blow up going on. They're still rated AA, single A.
Their rates are coming down. It seemed like last week that they had been lowered somewhere. So
yeah, so they're a double. Fitch has them as a AA minus. S&P has them as a single A minus. They're not on watch. I'm not sure Saudi Arabia is the story of dumping all these treasuries. And frankly, I don't know if they have enough treasuries to dump to really make it something that could really affect it. The problem is I don't know what's going on here, and I don't think it's Saudi Arabia, although that might be part of it. Yes, I can see on the tenor here, on the spreads between the Japanese and the treasuries. That seems like a great positive carry if you can hold it for a long time and do it enough size. There's not enough people doing it to cause treasuries, which theoretically should continue tighten, and you should see yield. You should see prices going up. You should see yields coming down so that you get more of a parity, and you're just not seeing that. So, I think it's going to be hugely problematic for Japanese savers who have to basically pay the banks to save money, so that it's cheaper for them to just take cash and stuff it in their pillow, which is going to have, which will pull theoretically currency out of their Uh, I don't know. I don't know how much that.
No, bigger. Up.
I don't know. So there's something else going on here that I don't know about. That I can't get my mind around just yet to get saying this
All
is
right.
why things are the way they are. And I don't know if that's true, but realistically, 278 billion is not enough to move the market enough to. I mean, the current U.S. debt is. Hold on, I'll tell you in 1 second.
But how much of that is liquid? Use the liquid number, which is
No, I
closer
mean,
to like
it's still,
5.
20 billion, or 20 trillion, give or take.
It's right now. According to Bloomberg, the U.S. debt, combined debt, is 13.2 trillion. So 278 is not going to move the needle.
Yeah, but how much of that is actually liquid?
If it's all
And
treasury,
by
it's
that
all
I mean
liquid.
not held by U.S. government's own entities, right? So I'm talking that's tradable.
That I
That
don't
number
know.
I heard was closer to 5 to 6.
I
Okay.
think the Saudis have 750, according to numbers I've seen.
All right. I'll have to take a look.
All right. So next one, just I want to put this out there. Well, first of all, we have a new member of the crew on air. Say hello, everyone, to Uncle Bob's.
Well, that's the younger puppy. That's Clancy.
Is it a min pin?
What's that?
What type of dog is it? Is it a min pin?
No, it's a rat-tailed terrier.
Oh,
A rat-tailed terrier.
Very appealing name.
And Teddy Roosevelt was famous for him.
So did you name him Teddy?
No, his name is Clancy.
Clancy. All right.
He's a little pesky right now.
There goes Big Boy over my shoulder, but you can't see him. But he hasn't lost any weight in the last year, unlike myself. Hey, so what do you guys think about the concept that there are states now in Europe that are paying mortgages? So I've seen this in a couple of places. One of them is a article about someone who had opened up a loan like 10 years ago, and he opened up his statement, and there was a credit on it because of negative interest rates. And so they're now paying people who have mortgages. Correspondingly, if you have your money in a savings account, obviously you're getting nothing.
no,
So-
you're getting less than nothing.
Exactly. So thoughts about the fact that mortgages are negative in three states in Europe, and our good Ms. Janet has said on the record now that she believes that the U.S. could in fact handle negative interest rates if she needed to take them there. And
Yeah,
so
I think that's more smoke than anything else because it's pretty clear from their last statement they're going to raise in June.
Yeah.
20. They're going to, and I would not be. People are pricing in a 25. I would not be surprised if it's not a 50.
I called for 50 last time. I thought her first one should have been 50 and done because it puts everyone on notice that she has a big hammer, she will use it, and then she doesn't have to for a while.
But she's not a hawk. She's not as hawkish as like the guy out of Dallas or the guy out of Richmond. So you got to take that. She still has to play the politics. It's a vote. She has won a vote of 7, and they can overrule her. So she has to be and she knows that, and she has to be careful. And it looks really bad if she were to try to force something and have the dissenting vote is hers. Yeah, the dissenting vote is Yellen. So that's never a good sign. So you always have to watch the politics of that and what they say. And she's always got and whoever's the chairperson and Bernanke was pretty good at it. Greenspan was a master at it. Was making sure that he had a consensus before the vote was taken. So that's from my perspective. Oh gosh, we've got another dog. So I could see 50 because she's getting under more and more pressure from the bank presidents to raise it more so that they can start restoring some gunpowder for the next problem.
Well, is inflation real?
Is there inflation?
Yeah,
I mean, outside of food.
Is inflation real? I don't know if I'm spiritually connected enough to handle such a metaphysical question.
What kind of inflation, too?
I mean, I don't know. You know, basically what the cost is to the average American, you know, going out and living.
Yeah, the answer I think is yes.
Okay. You think it's? Do you think it's increasing?
Good question. I actually do, but I'm less convinced I know that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's difficult to tell. I mean, I thought that I thought that inflation was really moving through the end of 2015. Just you know, this is totally anecdotal. In my view, things have kind of eased off a little bit,
And
but
the big ticket item that's gotten cheaper. Rents have soared. Someone
Yeah.
just off. But I mean, rents have soared. Healthcare never goes down. Thank
Right.
God, tuition holds up well. So the things that represent a huge percentage of your lifetime spending, they're going up still. So um, I think that
Anecdotal evidence from California. There is a buying boom in this area of homes, and prices are going up, and bidding wars are breaking out.
yeah.
And Ellen and I are partially responsible for that. We're in escrow right now, and I always time the top of the market on my house purchases, or the very bottom. It's one or the other. So we're in escrow right now, and the agent we were talking to, who's helping us with ours, had just listed a comparable house in a neighborhood over new builds, same size, and it was $100,000 more than the house we were getting that was 10 years old. And all of the comps were in the 400 to 500 range there. And so, there was another example of a house that they put it on the market, and Pete got 5 to 6 bids in 24 hours on it, and they actually went with one of the bids that was lower. And the reason was that there was no way that someone could get financing for the bid up. And they knew that the people were overbidding, and that when you would get the valuation from the loan structure, it wasn't going to happen. You know, it's kind of one of those weird scenarios. At least here in California, things have warmed back up again after 10 years or 5 years at least of true non-movement.
You see in the cold cut counter, right? You can go buy, sliced roast beef. You can go buy. I've noticed the price of lattes going up. It's a real first world problem there. Right?
How much is a latte now on campus?
There's leaves in my swimming pool, right? It's one of those problems. But I think it is. The other way to look at it, I think, is from '09 to the present. Draw a straight line, which isn't straight, and I actually think it probably is going to go very curvy on us. But the price of buying corporations, right? The equity prices is a form of inflation, right? The cost of buying, they're not selling at book value.
that's for sure.
So,
I mean, it's kind of a joke. I mean, I don't see. It's very difficult for me to assess housing as well as I used to. I used to live. I don't know what the hell that noise is, but it's not on my end. The housing costs in New Jersey, New York metropolitan area, were fairly easy to assess. But now, currently, I'm in Nashville, and it's just booming. The place is booming. The idiots that run the asylum have no clue. They're going to create huge traffic problems. And the problem is now that they can't sell old houses that they built that were 6, 7, 8,000 square feet because there's new building on board that's 5,000 square feet and it's brand new. Same price. Why am I getting feedback? Is anybody else getting feedback?
I'm hearing a little bit of something.
I'll try and mute. I'm on earbuds, but
Yeah, it's someone. It sounds like someone's background's either a child or something.
Not me. Well,
So-
maybe it's me. I got grandchildren in the other room, but I'm not hearing them at all. I'm hearing tinnitus in a very big way.
I've got daughters in the background, so let me hit mute and we'll see if that helps.
Well, let me talk about commercial, because one of the things you'd expect is if things were going kind of gangbusters, you'd expect, multifamily residential. You'd expect to see a lot of securitization, and one of the things you are seeing, at least within the CMBS world, is that securitizations are way off. I think they did about 110 to 120 billion last year. I think I might be overstating it. And this year they're going to fall well short of that. They are getting deals done, but they're a lot smaller. There's a lot of people who are having trouble selling relatively new issue in the secondary. So you can there's decent execution on the primary, but once those bonds are in someone's portfolio, people aren't selling them because, frankly, the guys who want to buy them want to get an arbitrage, and it's just not there. So you're seeing that. The other thing that's kind of scary that isn't getting a lot of news, but as an old MBS guy, and I'm getting older by the minute, a lot of mid-sized guys are actually getting rid of their agency mortgage-backed securities trading desks. So you had Edward Jones, you had Raymond James, you had Guggenheim, and then the biggest of the bunch that I know about, and I assume there are others that I don't know, Barclays Capital. They've all got rid of their agency MBS desk. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. One is agency. You'd have an agency MBS desk that's sort of tied into your agency corporate debt. The Fannie and Freddie corporate debt. Well, as Fannie and Freddie's portfolios are shrinking, their need for corporate debt shrinks. So you're not having that. You used to be able to do the Fannie Freddie, spread trade, swap trade. That's going away, especially with the single security that's being put out. So all of a sudden, you have less and less activity that can generate a lot of income. And people are saying, listen, if I can't, if I'm not big enough to do massive size in this, and I don't have a REMIC desk where I could take a whole bunch of pools, REMIC them, and people could buy different stripes in the prepayment profile. It just doesn't, I'm not making enough money to keep the lights on. So what you have is you actually have a shrinking of number of players in the agency MBS desk, which has always been one of the most liquid structured fixed income products ever. And while you still have enough capacity, theoretically down the road there could be a situation where you only have 2 or 3 players, and it could increase illiquidity, and you could and rates could go up. The other thing I wanted to talk about, when you talked about them paying, where the rates were different in other countries, there's a major fundamental structure. There's 2 major fundamental structural differences between the U.S. mortgage market and everybody else. The U.S. mortgage market is primarily made of 30 and 15-year fixed-rate mortgages. That's not true anywhere else in the world. Everybody else is either 100% floating, which means the rate can change every month, or it's fixed for 5 years and then it floats every month. And so, in the United States, we're used to it's either 30-year fixed, and even if we have an adjustable rate mortgage, we have boundaries, right? The rate can't go below, some number, and it can't go above another number, usually 600 basis points or 6% over the rate that you took. So there's these caps. That's not true anywhere else in the world. And so theoretically, you could have, so since the other rates are based off of whatever the government rate is, that's not true in the United States, and so that's why you won't have that same sort of mortgage issue happen in the United States. I'll get off my soapbox now.
The stagflation. What would you expect in the commercial market if we had a stagnating economy and an inflation that was starting to sneak up? Wouldn't that describe it?
Yeah, well, theoretically, but remember, CMBS has a couple of different components to it, right? It has, when you think of CMBS, it's not just I'm housing a corporation. It's multifamily, it's travel, it's retail, it's corporate. It's also the stock that's available. It's also, when most of these mortgages are 10-year balloons with an extension. Some are 5, some are 7, but and yeah, you do have some longer dated ones, but typically they're 10-year balloons. So if you have a stagflation, you would say, you could, if you had stagflation, you would expect rents to hold. You would, at least on the office space side, you could see retail not doing as well. You could see maybe Apple starting to tank. I don't know, but there's a lot. But on the other side, you have multifamily that's going gangbusters, right? As you were saying, rents are up. There's only some. There's not an oversupply like there had been in the 80s. So it's one of those things where it's going to be competing. It's going to be competing forces. So a true stagflation, I think you would have just sort of this. The CMBS would be going along at this sort of current level, and because they need to refi, they need to do a bunch of things. So I would see it bouncing along at some level. It's not until you start seeing a recession where you see that demand goes way down for a lot of these products that becomes problematic.
It has felt to me like we've been trying to get to a recession for over a year now. I thought that the turning down signs, the fairy tale of 14, beginning of 15, I thought in 15 it looked like things were really doing a header at one point, and the whole thing feels really stale to me, and so I'm still trying to figure. Stagflation is so confounding that I'm just wondering if maybe the fact that inflation is showing up in some prices but not showing up in the economic activity. By the way, let me bring up a metaphysical question. When you have inflation because an economy is burning hot, and you have an inflation because the central bankers are a bunch of assholes and they're just pumping money into it as fast as they can. My gut feeling is those are not the same kind of inflations, right? And they're going to manifest different properties and different effects on prices, right? One's just a money pump, and the other one's where people are chasing.
Well, I think that's one of them is pulling on a string, and the other is pushing on a string.
Right. That's one way of putting it.
All right, so I've posted a link on Twitter, and this is from the Value Walk. It's linked here in our green room area. The Value Walk on state debt collapse, and it's New Jersey. Uncle Bob, tossing since you're Mr. New Jersey, I'm tossing the lead to you.
I used to live in New Jersey, and then before that I lived in Illinois, so, I've been
so you're responsible for all of the crashes.
I've been crisis wherever I be. Anyway, apparently Morgan Stanley came out with some analysis on state debt repayment, and I encourage everybody to read this article. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people over months that Illinois was the canary in the coal mine, but I kept contending that New Jersey was, and this particular article kind of confirms that. Basically in the state of New Jersey, for people that don't know the political process there, it was a state of governance that basically just gave everything to public employees that they ever asked for. They expected to be upper middle class people after 20 years of service, and they had no means to pay it. No means whatever. And if you go back to the Christy Todd Whitman election, where she actually won, I don't know what year it was, maybe 88, maybe 90, beat Jim Florio, who had been the governor, and Ed Rollins was her campaign manager, and she was absolutely just stagnating in the polls. And what she said was she'd cut taxes. So she cut taxes and just borrowed all the money and they have no way to pay it back. They're 8.75. What is their top tax rate now? Is it 9.875 or something? And David Tepper, it was big news about 2 or 3 weeks ago on Twitter. David Tepper, who lived in Livingston, New Jersey, has officially moved his headquarters and also that of his hedge fund down to Florida. And he was the largest taxpayer in the state of New Jersey. So, anyway, it's just something for people to chew on. It is remarkable to me that in this environment where we basically have almost zero interest rates, that your political officials haven't done anything to mitigate this debt problem that we have. Absolutely nothing.
All right, that brings up Puerto Rico. Ooh, I heard an echo.
It's all you, Jack.
It's all me. All right, I'll go back to mute. Just smile.
You're getting a feedback. So here's the question. I think so. The Morgan Stanley article had 4 states that were bright red. There were, I think, Kentucky was another, and the 4th I can't remember, but it was bad. The question is, how deep into the states do you go before you actually they can't afford it? So mine. God damn.
We're getting a lot of feedback. It may be David's.
Well, I wasn't talking when.
Yeah, but I'm hearing feedback from you, David.
No, I am too. Let me put it closer.
It's all Uncle Bob.
There's nothing. Nothing.
Now, Uncle Bob keeps going silent.
Well, we might be wrapping up this episode early. All right, so as long as I can speak quickly, my question is thoughts on Puerto Rico. Obviously, they appear to be spectacularly blowing up. And we had a whole bunch of hedge fund managers who said that they were moving their actions and suggesting to set up down there a couple of years ago. So thoughts on that? Anyone?
Oh, well, you got to read Muni Lass's Twitter account. She's been all over it.
Say the name again?
Muni Lass. I forget her real name, which is on there now. If you give me a second, I'll look her up.
Long, Kate Long, probably.
Yeah, Kate Long, that's it.
Right.
No? Hold on. Let me see. Muni. It's Christy Culpepper.
I was going to say the opposite of that. Her and Kate Long are on opposite ends of the teeter-totter.
All right, well, anyway, Muni Lass, Christy Culpepper, knows what the hell she's talking about when it relates to everything that I know I get from her. And she is, basically the bottom line is Puerto Rico is completely broke. They do not have money to pay anything. And the minute anybody tries to make them pay anything, they're going to shut down their hospitals and their schools. So Congress, theoretically, is supposed to take up what to do about Puerto Rico shortly. Puerto Rico is also in one of these weird legal states, and I don't know if you follow if you've watched John Oliver, if he's too liberal for you. But one of the things that he did talk about was that Puerto Rico is the only place that has this very bizarre rule saying that they can't go into any sort of bankruptcy whatsoever, where other states can. So they can't get
Thurman.
Yes, because of Strom Thurmond, that wise gentleman. So it's unless Congress actually does something, Puerto Rico just runs out of money and all the creditors lose everything. And, because you can't, I don't know how the courts are going to say, yes, you have to pay a creditor over paying your hospital staff. And so basically, at this point, people are scrambling to get what pennies they can.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way it's going to be paid back. A bunch of, despite the commercial that is seen on TV, a bunch of the debt is held by, I don't know what the term is for these hedge funds that buy distressed debt, but they bought this distressed debt. Now, I have
Vulture
heard,
funds.
Vulture, yeah.
right.
Singer et al.
I've heard plenty of rumors that Mr. Ryan, Speaker Ryan, does have something on the warming plate, so to speak, to deal with Puerto Rico. I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't been able to find out much about it. Just keep hearing whispers about it. So
Here's the question: why does he have the right to give my goddamn money to Puerto Rican debt holders?
I mean, that sounds rhetorical.
Right.
Isn't it time we give them statehood?
Well, actually, I agree with David in the sense of, you know what, screw it. Change the laws, allow Puerto Rico to have bankruptcy. The investors get screwed. And Puerto Rico takes it on the chin from a funding perspective, and it resets. But they have to have the ability to they have to have the ability to refinance their debt. Or
when I was at
get
Franklin
charged
Templeton,
off.
they had a ton of Puerto Rican debt into all kinds of their tax-free funds. It basically was a core holding of theirs. I haven't looked at what their holdings are in years, but I doubt that's changed. I don't think there's a liquid enough market in it.
We're letting them do right?
We're getting a lot of feedback.
Hold on, let me mute mine to see what the hell. See if that's somehow coming through mine and back out again.
You're coming through clean.
Well, okay.
You don't have earbuds in.
I know.
I think that's the problem.
But Bob doesn't either.
Bob's on mute.
Well, hey guys, we've gotten in 45 minutes of the macro tourist hour, and we're old and out of shape for being on air. Is there any quick topics that you guys want to cover? Oil. Let's quickly touch on oil. Obviously, it had a phenomenal bottom or phenomenal move down. What appears to be a bottom has been set in. However, we also appear to be having some significant storage being reported. I saw an article today where in Singapore there's like 47 million barrels just sitting in tankers out there, where someone is probably doing one of those buy it cheap, rent a tanker, park it for 6 months, and fill a futures contract down the road. Obviously, we don't have an expert oil person on. We know a couple of them that we'll be reaching out to, and hopefully we can get someone who can talk this lingo better than we can, a tourist with a little knowledge of the landscape. But there appears to be a lot of floating storage going on out there. You have Iran that's turned on and ramping up their oil production. Sapien, please reach out and ask if you can get her to come on air. And she can come on with just a blank screen. She doesn't have to come on face if she doesn't want to show face, but would absolutely love to have that kind of resolution on topic. Oil has obviously ran up. We also have this refinery turnaround period, and that's caused, I believe, crack spreads to become profitable. And at the same time, we're getting, we keep hearing rumors that there's going to be some kind of OPEC deal, but then the reality is that you're hearing stories about Iran ramping. And Saudi Arabia is going to bring on some fields that were in the neutral area. But that's offset by 1 million barrels a day that's offline due to a fire up in Canada. So, and Venezuela, which hamburgers are $170 a pound in Venezuela. So, I mean, how much longer are they going to be able to produce oil there before there's just anarchy? So, yeah, I guess oil is back to being a true political animal again, based upon security. In the case of Libya, you have 3 different governments, if you count ISIS as a government, trying to export oils from whichever port they are holding. You got tankers floating ashore, just came ashore.
They do that.
They do that, huh, when there's no one on board?
Yeah.
So, oil to me is kind of the enigma in the economic geopolitical scene right now.
Well, and let's be fair. Let's be fair. There's no way NATO can get their shit together to have enough collusion to reduce oil consumption, because everybody's hemorrhaging right now, and they all need the money. And so that's going to make sure no one who's watching this at all, and the people that I listen to that I trust on this topic, all of them say there's just no way that these guys who are barely talking to each other right now can even think about reducing output. They're so desperate for money, they'll take it. Even they need it, whether or not it's at the price per barrel that they need to pay their debt.
So I heard, again, I can't confirm that the emerging market debt. You remember the mortgage reset plot, that iconic plot that shows the resets? I heard the analogous plot of emerging markets has a big bolus of debt rollover in 2017, and so that means that something.
Oh, cool! I can't wait.
Hey, you're coming back into business again. There'll be a job for you. There's nations to terrorize. I mean, to refinance.
Actually, I have a slightly different apocalyptic endgame. I keep focusing on Europe now, and I think there's going to be some political upheaval there. It's just my spidey sense.
Hey, Austria, the last I checked, appeared to be electing. It may have changed in the last few hours, but they appear to be electing their first far-right government in the EU history.
Well, there's borders going up very quickly. Everything's going extreme left, extreme right, extreme everything. And I've been reading way too much George Friedman, right? He's it's like reading Roald Dahl for politics or something. And it just feels to me like Europe's going to do it again.
Well, they're usually the ones who kick off the big party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, that's okay. And then and to something that Bob said about, I mean, let's face it, and I'm paraphrasing something I said 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I said it was the Republican Party's election to lose from the presidential side, and they produce candidates that can do just that.
Oh God, yes.
And this year, to paraphrase that, this is Hillary Clinton's election to lose, and she's running a campaign to do just that.
She is the worst retail politician of all time.
And here's the funny thing is, okay, when she was the senator from the state of New York, she was great. Okay, I mean, I voted for her twice as senator. She was the first senatorial candidate to go visit every single county in New York, and there's some freaking rural, out-of-the-way counties in upstate New York, especially when you go, 4 counties north, like Clinton County, New York, okay, which is on the Canadian border. It may have 50 people in it, right? I mean, it's tiny.
Where is this place?
It's
Near
Clinton,
where?
It's near Canada.
What? Where?
Canada. Someplace I'm going to move when either Canada or Ireland when Trump becomes president.
Iceland.
Yeah, Iceland. I'm not allowed back in.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, bad joke.
But all right, joke. I'm allowed into Iceland. Really, I am. Maybe. It's fine. It's fine.
You're allowed in Iceland only to go to jail.
Exactly. No.
Oh,
I'm
they'll
okay.
invite you to come into the airport. You just may be leaving.
Yeah. So, but the fact is that she was a great candidate, and her second election in New York, she won all but like 6 or 7 counties, and they're counties that haven't voted for a Democrat or a progressive in like 200 years in New York State, and they voted for her because, honest to God, she listened to the constituents. She did what she was supposed to do, and this is historical.
You know what the issue is. She is. I mean, we'll put that aside for a moment. I don't disagree there, but she's a lousy retail politician. She is, in fact, a great politician. I mean, across the board, both criminal gangs really, don't have anything bad to say about her time in Senate. They say she was very good, very well educated, knew the issues.
She was the hardest working senator while she was there.
No doubt. No doubt.
And she's probably the most qualified person to be president based on her knowledge of the issues.
I agree with that, and I hate her guts. I agree with that analysis. The problem is her baggage is just unbelievable, and her arrogance that has caused her to accrue baggage by the minute is unbelievable. So the things she has done act as though she thought no one would ever touch her, that she was invincible, and so all the paybacks, they're enormous. They're in a different zip code than the other Washington politicians.
No, I'll disagree with that.
Well, you can.
I'll call bullshit on that because
I don't think so.
Oh, no. I mean, she gets a lot more attacks than the other guys because she is running for president, and because the Republicans genuinely hate anything named Clinton, and I'll say there's probably some gender bias in there as well. I happen to believe that. Other people say no, it's just Clinton.
I would have voted in a heartbeat for Warren. In a heartbeat for Warren.
Well, all right, that's interesting because I would have a hard time voting for Warren.
Right.
And I'm the tree hugging, pink wearing liberal of the group. But the issue, because I get to see all these clowns up front, and Bush and Cheney all had private email servers too. They get a pass. She doesn't.
That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm talking about the quantity of cash she collected from foreign. Her top 10 donors are foreign states. I mean, she's a crook. As Secretary of State, it was they're not all at that level. I hear that all the time. Clinton has her own zip code. She's got her own server. She's got her own zip code.
But she didn't. I'm going to have to
1.2 billion. 1.2 billion was raised for the Clinton Foundation.
She's getting it from warlords in Nigeria. I mean, they're not coming from General Electric. They're coming from goddamn awful places. She's breaking huge laws. You're not supposed to be accepting money from foreign nationals like that. She's been doing this since 1978 with her cattle trading and the travel gate and the Whitewater. I mean, she's just a mess. And now in a national election, she's getting her ass kicked.
Well, we'll find out what it's like having a fascist as a president.
Well, I tell you, frankly, the race isn't over. Ignore the national polls. The polls that are important are state polls. We are an electoral college, does it, guys? Don't get excited by all this nonsense that goes on TV. And first off, nothing is settled yet. The Republican nomination is relatively settled. Democratic nomination is not. Hillary will get a bump post that. So then we'll see. I think Rump is, he's like getting more bizarre by the day. More bizarre by the day.
By the way, I'm not supporting him. My distaste for Hillary is independent of who she's against.
Okay, I got a question. Hold on. Let me bring it to the table, right? So do we vote for the libertarian, the third party, whoever it is?
No.
I mean, literally, if we can't vote for A and B choices because we just morally can't accept them,
I vote
do we
third.
pick
I've done it several times.
third party, fourth party? I mean, where do we hide our no vote? Is what I'm saying.
Leader gets my vote. You know, unless the election's won by one vote in New York State, my vote doesn't count anyways. So all I have is my conscience. I think the people who say vote one of the two or you're wasting your vote, that's what the two parties love. I think our votes count as none of the above when we vote third party. I think we owe it to the system to say, fuck this, give us better candidates, you're not going to vote.
So none of the above.
None of the above.
All right, I'll go with that.
I absolutely, completely concur. Completely.
I'm voting Jill Stein, so you guys.
I've been voting the same way.
I'm voting Che Guevara.
Just don't write my name in this time, okay? That's all I'm asking.
I don't think anybody of Indian descent is American enough to be president.
Okay, all right. You know what? Going on that, I actually got I got to out myself on this. Here's a good joke on me. The family did a DNA test, and there was supposed to be Native American. My grandfather was born on a reservation. Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. We get back the results, and there's Grandma's side, delineatively there, obviously. And there's Viking. There's no American Indian in.
Maybe the Vikings got to the Indians, dude.
Yeah. Thanks, you know, Grandma's been gone for 40 years, so it's funny to the rest of us. My mom, not so much. Yeah. There's Scandinavian and British appears at like 97% kind of thing. I got like
my brother.
Go ahead.
My brother did a DNA test, right? So we assumed, all right, it's going to be mostly Ashkenazi Jew. So when we got back the results, it was 99.9% Ashkenazi Jew, and that's because you can't do it 100% because of the plus or minus, the confidence interval. So there you go. There ain't nothing but Jew here.
You're the smartest.
Nothing but Jew there, huh?
You're the smartest. Mine goes right back to Europe and down to Africa eventually, and that means white privilege for me, pretty much.
It was British. The offsets were there was 2% in Italy, Greece. There was 1% in Finland, Northern Russia, and 6% Irish. But in essence, it was Britain and a big circle around Scandinavia. So Viking.
And these were just from your mother's contribution of this.
This was Mom's DNA test. So we're going to have an uncle take the test who's still alive. He's 87. And if they come back as first cousins, which is how half brothers and sisters show up on this DNA test, we'll know that there's American Indian on one side, but not on the other side.
I was going to guess Neanderthal was in there, so.
You know, they hide Neanderthal, and they just called that as the Jack factor.
Jack.
All right, gentlemen. Do we have any closing comments? I want to thank each and every one of you for joining the table again. It's been a pleasure. Have missed this. Looking forward to the next time we do this. And maybe Philip can find a new third world nation to help refinance their debts. May you find some gold, Uncle Dave.
I bought some today.
I wouldn't touch gold equities now that they're up 500% or something like that. But that aside, Uncle Bob, how about you? Are you looking at land right now? Because this should be the last broadcast from this studio. Next broadcast, we should be moving out of here in the next week or so.
Well, I will as well. I'll be moving to a smaller location.
Oh, the kids have gone off to college. You two are empty nesting it now, right?
Yeah, soon.
All right.
Your wife will spend you into the poorhouse on the grandchildren, dude. Don't think you're free and clear.
No grandchildren yet. None.
I'm just telling you. All of a sudden, the whole credit card thing goes bonkers again. As soon as there were grandchildren, it's like, oh shit, we really had to empty every department store and then mail it all? Really?
My nephew's now, my grandson, boy, that was a whoops. My grandson is now standing, and he almost took his first walks last week. And when I see him this week, I got my fingers crossed that I'll be there for, if not the first steps,
It's
right
not
about then.
until he walks his way to first base, Bob.
Yeah, I hear you on that. So, folks, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, gentlemen. Peace be with all of you. And thank you, audience, for watching the Macro Tourist Hour. We shall return again, and have an excellent week in the market. Stay safe out there. Peace.
All right, take care.